Hello, I'm Gordon Lang, editor of CameraLabs.com. I'd like to give you a brief video tour around the Canon PowerShot S5 IS. Here it is, the S5 IS. This is the successor to the S3 IS. It's an 8 megapixel super zoom camera with a 12 times optical zoom range. That's equivalent from 36 to 432mm. This lens also features image stabilization to help it counteract camera shake. Now that's quite a big optical zoom range, but let's see how quickly the camera powers up and also how far that lens extends. If I switch the camera on right now, that's how long it takes to power up. That's about 1 second, so it's pretty quick. And now if I zoom in all the way to its maximum focal length, you'll see that the lens barrel hardly extended at all. Now the interesting thing about the S5 IS is that it actually has two different zooming speeds. Here it is at its fastest speed, and that's quite audible. However, if you put it on its slower zooming speed, it becomes very, very quiet. I'm going to give you a closer look at that. Now, believe it or not, that was that lens fully zooming from one extent to the other, and you could barely hear it. And this has allowed Canon to actually let you optically zoom while filming videos. And we've got a demonstration of that coming up in just a moment. Now the secret behind that quiet zooming is in fact a USM motor. If you're familiar with Canon's DSLR lenses, you'll know that USM is used on its higher end models to provide very fast and quiet focusing. On this camera, it's actually used to zoom the lens, and as you heard just then, it allows it to do it very, very quietly. Other highlights of the S5 IS include a flash Hotshoe on the top. This allows you to mount a proper speedlight flash gun. And round the back, you've actually got a flip out screen. This can flip to any angle, allowing you to take shots at low angles or over the heads of crowds. It gives you enormous flexibility. But now let's take a closer look at some of the S5 IS's controls. The S5 IS is packed with controls. Starting here with the main command dial, you'll see it's got program, shutter, aperture priority, full manual and a selection of scene presets. That all gives you enormous creative flexibility. Towards the front of the camera, around a decent sized grip, you'll find the zoom rocker and a shutter release button here, a dedicated button here for the drive mode and self timer, and this set of controls here switches the camera on either in record mode or play. If I push it in and turn it to the right, you'll see it goes into play mode, and to switch it off again you press this button in the middle. Around the back of the camera you've got a four-way rocker here for navigating images and also menus. And up here a button that's dedicated to the video mode. Now if you press this, it will start recording video at any time regardless of what mode you're in. It shows you just how seriously Canon takes the movie mode on the S5 IS. If we take a quick look at the screen here, here's an image that's being played back in the portrait aspect ratio. And if I turn the camera on its side, you'll see that the image turns to fill the screen. Turn the camera around to the side and we've got the ports here. Behind this flap is an AV output and a USB socket, and above it a DC input. Underneath the camera is the battery compartment. Open this up and you'll see that the S5 IS unusually takes 4 AA batteries. I've got this fitted with rechargeables, although you're going to have to supply your own. This camera is however supplied with alkalines, but once they run out you'll need to put in your own batteries. And like most Canon compacts, it takes SD memory cards. Just before wrapping up, let's take a quick look at the front of the camera there. Above the lens, you'll see 2 microphones, left and right. This camera can actually record stereo sound with your movies. Now we're outside with the S5 IS, so let's check out the optical zoom range. Here zoomed out, and now zooming in to a maximum equivalent of 432mm. Now that's allowed us to get pretty close, but you can also see I'm shaking quite a lot. But luckily the S5 IS has image stabilization, and to activate it you go into the menu system and you'll see here changing it from off to continuous. And the difference there is pretty obvious. You can see that the S5 IS is stabilizing that very, very well, even when we're fully zoomed in. So now let's zoom back out again to the equivalent wide angle of 36mm. Like most compact cameras, you can overlay various graphics on the screen. Here's a 3x3 grid to help with alignment. But where's the live histogram? Well, to find that, you've got to go back into the menu system. You can actually choose what graphics you want to overlay. Here, as you can see, the grid lines and shooting information are activated, and now also the histogram. So let's go back again, press the display button, and there's the grid complete with the histogram. So you can choose exactly which bits you want to appear or not to appear. In terms of most of the settings, these are accessed by pressing the function button. There you can adjust the white balance, the my colours, the bracketing options which include exposure and focus bracketing. You can adjust the flash compensation, the metering mode, the movie quality. Regardless of whichever mode you're in, you can adjust that. And also the still quality. There's the resolution, and press set and you can adjust the compression setting. Now the S5 IS has its own dedicated ISO button, so this allows you to very easily adjust the sensitivity up to 1600 ISO, and there's also a dedicated drive mode button which allows you to set it to continuous shooting or set the self timer. Now let's take a quick look at the playback options. If you press the play button, there's a brief pause as it loads the image, and then if you press the display button you can overlay some shooting information, press it again and you can see a brightness histogram with some more detailed information. Of course you can zoom in quite far and use the rocker to scroll around the image, and this is quite responsive as you can see on the S5 IS. If you zoom out you can of course fill the screen and then go to a thumbnail view. And now I'm going to show you a video on the S5 IS because this is a real highlight of the camera. Here's one that we filmed earlier, and I'm just going to start it playing here. This was using the best quality mode, and I've got the camera fully zoomed out to its wide angle equivalent. Now most cameras would be fixed at this now once you started filming, but the beauty of the S5 IS is that you can actually zoom in. So here I am zooming in to its maximum focal length, and that's really allowed me to get really close to the action. Now let's take a look at a different example, another movie. This next example was taken starting with the lens fully zoomed in, so here we are zoomed in at a maximum of 432mm, again very close to the action. But the beauty of this camera is then being able to zoom out very gently to reveal the bigger view. It really gives a perspective to your movies. The Canon PowerShot S5 IS is clearly a very capable super zoom digital camera. It has a 12 times optically stabilized zoom lens, a flip out screen which allows you to shoot at unusual angles, a flash Hotshoe for connecting external speedlight flash guns, and a decent degree of manual and creative control. The S5 IS also has what's perhaps the best movie mode of any still camera. It's great to be able to record stereo sound and to zoom the lens while you're filming a video. But does that make this the ultimate super zoom camera? I'm afraid not. There are a couple of downsides to the S5 IS that are definitely worth mentioning. First of all, its optical zoom range of 36 to 432mm. That might be quite powerful, but it's not as powerful as its rivals with 18 times zoom ranges. Now they not only allow you to zoom in closer, but crucially to zoom out wider. This camera can only zoom out to an equivalent of 36mm, which simply isn't anywhere near as wide as the 28mm equivalents of its rivals. And we've got examples of how that compares on the Camera Labs website. It's also interesting to note that the S5 IS does not have RAW recording facilities, and that will be very important to some enthusiasts. Again, a feature that you'll find on some of the rival super zooms out there. And finally, while it is a small note, it is worth mentioning that the lens cap on the S5 IS does fall off very easily. Almost every time we pulled this camera out of a bag or a pocket, the lens cap had fallen off, and that of course means that the front element could more easily get damaged. However, there is an awful lot going for the S5 IS, and if you're in the market for a super zoom camera, you should definitely be considering it. But you should also be considering its main rivals, such as Panasonic's Lumix FZ18. And the choice between those two cameras really depends on weighing up which features are more important to you. And we've listed those features in our full review of the S5 IS at the Camera Labs website. So if you'd like to see which features this camera and its rivals have, which ones are going to end up being better for you, and of course to see some sample images, results from both cameras, and the very latest prices for them, then head on over to our full review. You'll find it at www.cameralabs.com.